Are you an accounting or tax professional who wants to stay ahead without spending a dime? Join thousands who trust insightful accountant and tax practice news to keep them informed and empowered. Get expert updates on QuickBooks, Xero, tax planning strategies, and workflow tips delivered straight to your inbox. Whether you're a solo bookkeeper, firm leader, or tax advisor, these newsletters are your shortcut to what's next in the profession. They're free, practical, and built for people like you. Visit insightfulaccountant.com and hit subscribe to start your smarter workflow today for free.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Accounting Insiders Podcast. My name is Gary Dehart, and I'm the host of Accounting Insiders Podcast and the publisher of Insightful Accountant. My guest today is Melissa Broughton, who is the co-owner of Busy Bee Advisor and the creator of the One Hour Bookkeeping training system. Melissa, welcome. Thanks for taking some time.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Great. And today, I always like to put the date so that if we say something today, if you're listening to this 6 months from now, it may not be true. Today is November the 6th, 2025. So before we dive in too far into our conversation, question of the day. Hope you studied.
Okay, I'm ready.
So it's Thanksgiving season almost. My wife and I are back and forth on if it really is or not, but I think it is. What's the favorite thing on the Thanksgiving spread?
You know what? My husband makes an excellent turkey, so I will say the turkey,
It's the
as
turkey.
long as we don't decide to get too creative on the stuffing. So there's a lot of controversy that we learned when we got married 20 years ago on if you're an in the bird stuffing person or an out of the bird stuffing person.
Right. Well, which one are you?
We are out of the bird stuffing people.
All right. So I was raised out of the bird. My wife was raised in the bird. First time she did it in the bird, it was amazing. It's my favorite now. Yep.
Okay, so she won
Yep.
you over.
She
Yes.
did. She won me over to that side. And I eat turkey all the time. We don't eat like big roasted turkey, and it's totally different, right? Like yesterday, I cooked up some little turkey cutlets or whatever. It is not the same.
No,
It's not the same as a big roasted bird that's been in the oven for 6 hours or whatever. So, now this is making me hungry.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking that's not fair because we've got weeks to go before
Right.
the big day. But
Might need to do a test bird. You never know.
never a bad idea. Never a bad
Right.
idea.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think it was our first year that we were married. We were so excited to host Thanksgiving, and we decided, of course, to try a new recipe. So we brined it and the turkey, and we thought, well, if it says to brine it for one day, we'll brine it for 3 and it'll be even better.
Yeah.
And it just kind of fell apart. It was
Oh.
hilarious, so it made it into the roasting pan and then we put it in the oven. But when we went to serve it, it was like the bird had it had to be the ugliest turkey ever. It was delicious, but presentation wise, I don't think my mother-in-law was very impressed. I'll just say
That's really funny.
that.
We had one similar. It was one Christmas, and we do a beef tenderloin on Christmas, and I salted it overnight, and it was mushy. And I cooked it, didn't know it, cooked it, started cutting it. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. It was awful. And there was one end of it that was okay, but the other end was it was not a good meal. So it didn't, yeah.
Yes,
So
yes. But
live and learn.
those are the things that we look back on and, have these fond memories of, at least. So,
Exactly. Right. Live and
yeah.
learn. All right.
Live and learn. Agreed.
So you tell us just a little bit about your background and kind of set the table for us. Speaking of
I love it.
Thanksgiving.
Set the table, set the stage. So I was really fortunate. I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I, graduated from high school, went to college. I had grown up with a mom who was a bookkeeper at a bank. My grandmother had she was, as we call her, the original single mom. She was always looking for ways to kind of bridge the gap. And in raising 4 kids on her own, in Chicago, that was not easy, even in the 60s. So she, would have occasional bookkeeping clients, kind of side clients, where she didn't drive, so she would actually take a bus to, different clients' locations. She would work with 4 or 5 at a time, and that was what kind of bridged the gap for them and put food on the table, or allowed some breathing room. So 2 generations of bookkeepers before me had never really thought about it until I took an accounting class in high school, and I absolutely fell in love with accounting. I
And
mean,
it
it was
just
like,
clicked. Yeah.
it just clicked. And so went to college, knew that that was what I wanted to do. And kind of the logical path is to either work for one of the big CPA firms.
Yeah.
So I interned for a year with a larger CPA firm. Didn't really like that. I liked the tax side of things, but I didn't like the pace of the big firm. And I didn't
Mm.
like that you would, probably have to work ridiculous hours for 10 years before you even really made a name for yourself. So after a year I left and went to another company. Along the way I met my husband, had some kids. Like, life just moves at the pace that it does. And in 2016, I was working for a manufacturing company. It was probably commute wise, it was about an hour and a half from our house. So 3 hours of commuting each way. I had a 16-year-old at the time and then a 6-year-old. So my boys were young, and it
Huh.
felt like, 6-year-olds, there's always a runny nose or a cold.
Right.
And high schoolers who are involved in everything, they're involved in everything, right? So I felt like all I was doing was saying no to them. Like, it was stressful if my youngest had to be home. My husband was a nurse at the time, so it was very difficult for him to take time off. Um, and just the guilt of not being able to be there with your kids, it really had started to get to me. And I had kind of been thinking, I had been at the position that I was at for about 6 years. And I was kind of thinking that maybe it was time for a transition, at least to find some place that was closer to home. So my husband surprised me for my 40th birthday and took me on I'll say this and you can laugh, took me on a cruise with my in-laws. So
Nice.
so so we're in
Yeah.
Mexico. It's 3 days out. We left from San Francisco, so 3 days on the water. No real Wi-Fi at the time. The ships have gotten a lot better now, but then
Yeah.
no Wi-Fi, no way to connect. So we hit Puerto Vallarta. We had like just the best day, just walking around and exploring the city. And finally, we stop at a hotel bar. And my husband is not a drinker, but when we are on cruises, he loves himself a pina colada. And I too can get into the pina
Oh,
colada mode. So
that's funny.
we had each probably had 2 pina coladas. I mean, we weren't trashed by any means, but we were a little tipsy. We were having a great time. We were on vacation. So I make the mistake of being the responsible employee, I guess you could say. And I called the office, and my voicemail is full with, my boss just screaming at me, starting from the person who was supposed to fill in for you never showed up, to the next message saying, you didn't get approval for this vacation. I'm like, well, that's a contradiction there, but message after message. So by the time I had listened to, I think, 9 messages of him just screaming at me, I was pretty irritated.
Yeah, I imagine.
And irritation mixed with pina coladas. It was just not a great mix, although maybe it was a great mix because I'm certainly much happier now in my life.
Right. There you
So
go. Right.
I called. Um, I guess, it was one of those things. If you could think of life as a movie, it was one of those pivotal points where if he would have been like, hey, things are a little crazy around here. Can you remind me when you're coming back, or something like that? Or what should I do?
Yeah.
Not his style, but if that would have been the approach, I probably would not have quit on the spot, but that
Mm.
was not the approach. The approach was him screaming at me, telling me I needed to fix something that had not been an issue that I had created, trying to
Mm.
blame me for it, blame other people for it. And so I just quit. I quit on the spot. I remember my husband looking across the table at me and going, okay, I guess we'll figure this out. We've always done a good job of being very supportive of the curveballs that we like to throw each other.
Yeah.
So we came home. I mean, I don't even think that I actually went back to work after the trip. We came home. They had shipped all of my stuff from my desk back to me along with my, final paycheck. There were some, I think, hurt feelings.
Yeah.
And I had 6 weeks of summer left with my kids. So we just did all the stuff that I had never been able to do. I mean, bike rides and day trips. And I just remember feeling, especially with my oldest, very thankful that he still wanted to hang out with his mom.
Right.
But we had a great 6 weeks or so of summer. Boys go back to school. At this point, our bank accounts are starting to get a little bit like we weren't quite in the emergency danger zone, but we were like one major incident away from it being incredibly stressful.
Right.
And, my husband's kind of going, okay, the boys are going to be back in school. So, like, what's the plan? And I decided I'm going to drop the boys off at school. I'm going to go for a run and I'm going to just figure it out. Right. So, I drop them off, go for a run, and I am like at the farthest point. I'm 3 miles from my house. I'm at a full sprint, and my foot, there were some leaves on the ground. My foot hit an uneven part of the sidewalk. So much irony that I was on the sidewalk and not on the street because I didn't want to get run over by a car. And I just fell. And I mean, the whatever the instinct is to put your hands out, apparently I don't have that instinct at all. My wrist was a little bit scratched up, but really my face is what made contact with the cement. So $70,000 in dental treatment later, and about 3 months of recovery time gave me the beautiful gift of stillness and being able to really figure out what the perfect business was for me, right? I knew that if
Mm.
I went, even if there was a company that I was able to get a job with that was closer to home, it really wasn't going to be any different than the last company or the company before that I had worked for,
Right.
right? There's always going to be when you're the accountant or the controller for a company, there's a lot of stress that lays on your shoulders. I mean, you kind of know, my husband always jokes, it's that, I knew where all the bodies were buried, right? Like I knew all
Right.
the secrets, I knew all the stuff. And usually you end up in the position of being the one who's kind of holding everything together with not much control over what actually it is that you're holding together. So
Right.
it was just going to be the same situation if I went to look for a job with another company. So I thought, well, I'll just start my own company, and I had my non-negotiables. So I had a laptop, and essentially I launched my firm Busy Bee Advisors in June June of 2016.
Okay.
So it took about a year after timeline, a little bit less than that, for full recovery and for everything to kind of come together. Um, so yeah, it was a crazy time to think back. I mean, you have these things in front of you, and I don't think you really sit there and go, "Can I handle this?" You just do.
Right.
And was very thankful. I mean, I gave myself, when I was finally like okay to work, gave myself 2 weeks to find my first client because I didn't want to add additional stress to my family, right? Like my husband is going to support me until the end of time. And I love
Hmm.
that about him. And I feel the same way about him. But I feel that also comes with a lot of responsibility. And so I didn't really want to push it too much. So I gave myself, this crazy, I think about it now, and it was like, that's crazy. 2 weeks to find my first client, and really had I had plans. I had a theory of where I would find clients, but no real
Right.
idea. And on the, on day 13 of 14, had somebody that reached out who was kind of that friend of a friend's type of a person who needed a remote bookkeeper, and that they knew that they needed somebody for probably about 7 or 8 months because they were in the process of building out an office in which they would hire someone. So what
Okay.
that gave me was, it gave me 7 months of time where I could build a business while still having this client that covered me, costs, and brought in money for our family and our household.
Right.
So
And and so what did that look like as far as, so you've got it in your head, all right, I'm going to do, I'm going to build Busy Bee Advisors. And what was the full service that you were offering at that point?
So for for that first client, I was doing everything that he needed me to do accounting wise. So I
Right.
was handling payroll, I was handling accounts payable, I was handling accounts receivable, I was handling collections. I was handling bank reconciliations. Now, I will say the one thing that we did, or I did keep as part of, and it goes back to one of the questions you asked before we started recording. But one of the things that I realized he was in QuickBooks Online, and what I knew was that as I added additional clients, that they needed to also be within the same accounting software.
Yeah.
So that was the first, I would say, the first clue that really led me to to refine the process. And I'm not saying that QuickBooks Online is the absolute be all end all best product out there. I mean, they are certainly quirky, but if you are going to start your own bookkeeping, we'll call it adventure,
Hmm.
pick one software program that you're working with for all of your clients, because as you grow, if you have 5 clients and they're in 5 different accounting softwares, yeah, you can probably manage that. But if you have 20 clients and they're in 10 different accounting softwares, you'll spend more time trying to figure out, wait, where's this client's file, where's that client's file,
Right.
and yeah, things along those lines.
Yeah.
So
And you can really become the expert of the one, right?
yes.
Versus the at best generalist of the others. And you're going to be more effective in your business and more effective for your clients if you're the expert in the one. And and there's no shortage of clients, right? I mean, if you go out looking for them, and there's no shortage of need for good advisors.
Yeah, and we really saw that. So, during the pandemic, I mean, it had never really been a challenge for us to, and I don't say that to brag, but it really had never been a challenge for us to get clients.
Hmm.
We had been on a really very steady trajectory of growth. Our biggest challenge was always finding qualified bookkeepers or finding people who were trainable to become bookkeepers. And what I found was that I would take somebody who had no experience but that was trainable
Hmm.
every day of the week over somebody who had experience, or believed that they had experience. And the biggest reason is that when you talk about bookkeeping, I can talk to 10 different people and their definition of what a bookkeeper does will have 10 different they'll have 10 different explanations.
Right.
So yeah. So we found that our biggest challenge in growth, or I found that my biggest challenge in growth, was having qualified team members. And that is really what I didn't realize it at the time, but that was really kind of the spark that started the 1 hour bookkeeper.
Right. So let's talk about that. What is that?
Sure.
What is the 1 hour bookkeeper?
So in August of 2024, I
Okay.
launched an online program targeted to help stay at home moms, dads, and military spouses to be able to work from home by running their own remote bookkeeping practices.
Okay.
And the 1 hour bookkeeper is the training program that teaches you everything from the actual skill set and functionality of what it takes to be a bookkeeper to the marketing aspect of, how to market your bookkeeping business. And,
Okay.
we realized that we had done something really well. We also, looking back at it, realized that we had kind of changed what was being done by other bookkeepers out there. And so to be able to teach that and share that knowledge with other people is incredibly gratifying.
Yeah. So I get the idea. Great. I want to be a bookkeeper. I go to your course, and is it well, it's 1 hour bookkeeper. I'm assuming it takes more than an hour to do the course. What's my time commitment to kind of get from, yes, I'm going to do this, to I'm done. And now I can actually go out and start my own business.
So we have a self-study program that's 12 weeks long that,
Okay.
I have people that will go at it at what I would call like breakneck speed. I've seen people that have gone through all 12 weeks in less than 2 months. And I've also seen people that maybe it takes them a little bit longer and it takes, maybe 16 weeks or 24 weeks, but there's
Right.
the program. The original program is designed to be a 12-week self-study course. Each week there are challenges and assessments and lots of videos and lots of different topics that I'm covering, but it's all designed to not only teach you the skills, but to help you set up and establish your bookkeeping business on your own. So you're kind of doing two things at the same time. Now, the idea behind that was that I want somebody, when they've completed the 12 weeks, to really feel confident and feel like they are ready to launch their own bookkeeping business, that they
Okay.
already have, they have the foundation, they have the, they've done the foundational work. So they know that all of those little things that you need to do when you go to start a business, those are all done. They've established themselves, right? So that was the idea behind the 12-week course. What I started to realize was people would get through the 12-week course, they would get a client or two, and then they were reaching out and they were asking what's next.
Mhm.
And how gratifying to hear that, but I didn't really have a plan for what was
Right.
next. So I worked with a few of my students. I actually ended up hiring three of my original students, and they helped me, because it's always helpful to have another perspective. But they helped me to kind of create foundation for a coaching program. So what happens is that people have the choice of, they can do the 12-week self-study and then do the coaching program. And our coaching program lasts for a year.
Okay.
Or they can jump directly into the coaching program, and we can still walk the path with them to fill in the gaps of where their knowledge is. And it's probably a 50-50 split of people who will just go directly to the coaching program, or people who will go through the 12-week self-study and then jump into the coaching program.
Then the coaching program, if I go straight in, that I've already been in business. I'm already a bookkeeper. I already have a book of business.
You would think.
Yeah.
So so
No
yes,
assumptions. Yeah.
yes, the majority of people have at least dipped their toes into either working for themselves, or have in some capacity either working for somebody else or have handled bookkeeping clients on their own. Those
Okay.
are the majority of people that go through that just jump right into the coaching program. I do have some that approach I'm going to skip the self-study and I'm going to go straight into the coaching program, because they know themselves well enough and they know that a self-study program will just be something that they purchase and they never use.
Okay.
And accountability is a pretty amazing thing. And having not only your instructor or your coach who's holding you accountable and responsible, and breaking things up into bite-sized pieces, but you also have your peers. So we the kind of the high level overview of the program, it lasts 12 months. um, we have weekly group coaching calls. So we have 3 different times available for weekly group coaching calls. And on those calls, there's a pre-selected topic. So I have a
Okay.
variety of topics that either it's new information that's come out and I've created curriculum around it, or it's a deeper dive into portions of the 12-week program that maybe are topics that I consistently hear people have questions on or want clarification on.
Okay.
We have office hours that are twice a week. So the idea of the office hours, I have a senior bookkeeper from my team that leads the office hours. The idea of the office hours is that it's a Google Meet. It's the same as when you were in college and you had a professor that had office hours. If you have questions, or if you just want to jump into office hours and say, hey, walk me through from step 1 to step 5 of doing a reconciliation, that they can sit and watch over a seasoned professional's shoulders as she does all the whole
Okay.
process. So it can be troubleshooting specific questions, or it can be hey, show me how to do this, and she'll take you through the whole process. So we do those twice a week. And then once a month, I have a one-on-one call with each of my coaching students. So
Okay.
that's when I get the most excited, because I'm really able to take you on a totally custom tailored plan from where you are now to where you'd like to get to. And it's such a variety of people that I've gotten to work with. I mean, we launched in August of last year. Our self-study program, I think we're at 4,000 sales so far of the self-study
Oh, it's
program.
fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. And so I guess there's a theme for me as I throw it out there and then I've got to figure out the processes afterwards, right?
Mm,
So we have the course because everybody says, "Oh, just put a course together. It's the
right.
easiest thing in the world to do." It is not.
Yeah.
So we had, quite a lot of people that have gone through that, which gave us a natural audience for the coaching program. And I think yesterday we did a count, we've had 112 people that are either in process or who have gone through the coaching program.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting.
And you still have the Busy Bee
I
advisors
do.
going over
I
here as well.
do.
So,
We laugh, my husband and I laugh. So the other part of the story is that right before the pandemic in 2018, he again, like I said, was working as a nurse. Um, we were quickly approaching New Year's Eve. And as a nurse, he was never either able to holidays always stunk because he either had to work the holiday or the night before the holiday or whatever it was. So I just had this, I don't know, like a burr in my shoe, I guess is what my grandma would have said or something. It
yeah.
just there I was so insistent that I wanted to go out with him for New Year's that I said, I put everything together. Like I had everything prepared because I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell him on this based upon the numbers alone, right? And so I approach him and I say, here's what I think. I think you should quit your job. I think you should partner with me at Busy Bee. And I think you should go back to school and learn how to do taxes. And he looked at me
It's just like,
like
no, thank
I
you.
had lost my flippin'
Yeah,
mind.
right.
And then all of a sudden, he just kind of took a breath and he said, sure, let's do it. And so, what was so crazy about that is he would have been, with everything with the pandemic, he would have been on the front lines of
Yeah.
that. And he just, he left nursing, he went back to school, he got the certifications he needed to fill in the gaps of his education, to do taxes. And we hit the ground running and we really haven't looked back since. So it was kind of a crazy inclination, I guess, that I
Right.
had. And yeah, so we get to run this crazy business together, but yeah, I stay pretty busy.
That's awesome. So the 12 weeks, how do you have the 12 weeks broken down? What am I learning kind of over those 12 weeks?
So the first like 6 weeks of it is all about the foundational kind of what is bookkeeping, how you want your business to look, the
Mhm.
pros and cons of doing full service versus what we teach, which is essentially reconciliations and month-end reports. And I use the analogy of there's not one that's better or worse. If you have a restaurant that's like a Ruth Chris restaurant or a fine dining restaurant, you understand that your patrons are going to come in and they are going to spend an evening there. You're not going to turn a lot of tables, right? But if you have a restaurant that's like an Applebee's or something like that, you're turning the tables a lot. So
Right.
do you want to be full service and do you want to deal with a small number of clients and do all of these different things for them? Or do you want to have a larger number of clients and do a very limited scope for them? And what we have found, because there's other bookkeeping programs out there, what we have found is that a lot of the other bookkeeping programs out there really lean into the high ticket clients. And you know what? High
Okay.
ticket clients are great. Would I be sad if, well, let me say, when I was first starting, would I have been sad if a client said, we want to pay you $10,000 a month to do our books? Probably not.
Right.
But if I look at it, how is that different than working for a company, right? Like that person totally dictates my schedule, they dictate everything versus you have 25 clients, which is what we consider to be a full client load. You're probably working about 30 hours a week. You have zero commute time because you're doing it based from, your home,
Mhm.
and totally flexible. Well, that seems like a lifestyle that is far more appealing to me. But there are still people that want to kind of understand the other the other side of things in dealing with those higher ticket clients. So we go over that all while we're building kind of the foundation of them launching their own businesses.
Right.
So we'll talk about, getting business cards and where to go to get a logo designed, and how to find an attorney so that you can we have a contract template that we use, but we're always going to encourage them to find an attorney to review the template and to put
Right.
things in that are specific to their location, right? And it's always good to have an attorney in your back pocket, so that if something does happen, you know who to call, not you're in a state of emergency trying to figure out what to do.
Right.
So we teach the kind of what is bookkeeping, the foundational skills of bookkeeping. We then kind of switch and we go over to the marketing of your business, right? So we taught the skills, but then we want to shake the brain up a little bit, because not everybody finds bookkeeping super exciting. So if it
Right.
was just foundational skills without them ever applying them to anything, it would be very dry.
Mhm.
And so we go into the marketing, and with the course, we take a very simplified approach of, all purpose, make a list. We go very basic, make a list of, networking events or things in your area. Get, cards out every week. I mean, we're specific, but it's kind of general purpose. Now, then we'll bring it back to the skills. But the challenges once we bring it back to the skills are all about learning what I refer to as our 4-step process. So, what the 4-step process allows us to do as bookkeepers is be very streamlined on what we're doing. I have to assume if somebody's a stay-at-home mom or dad that they're going to get interrupted. It's just part of
Right.
life. And so if you know that this is the 4-step process that you follow for all of your clients, and all of your clients are in the same accounting system, then it becomes very easy to know where to pick up when you do get interrupted, or, when you get things left off. And so what I find as my days get busier and busier, I mean, yesterday we had a power outage for half the day, then our internet was out. I had 4 appointments and a podcast interview, and still had books that needed to be done and stuff like that. And
Right.
so it's not impossible. It's just a lot of managing time effectively. So every time I had, little bit of breaks in my schedule, I was able to work on a client's books, and I was able to kind of whittle away at the work that needed to be done. Now, it's not just me in the company. I have a team of bookkeepers that work for me. So I'm more directing the ship now than
Mhm.
doing day-to-day, reconciliations, but I still do jump in, because I will say reconciliations are still probably one of my favorite things to do.
Right.
So
Yeah. You don't want to get too far from what actually got you into the business,
it's
right?
so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so do you get into like which ledger to work with, or into various technology, like the tech stack, what the tech stack should be or needs to be?
So one of the things that I found when I was starting was there are so many different software programs out there. So
Right.
all of them are going to, be the one solution you need. And what we found was that there really wasn't any that were the one solution, but it was
Right.
probably a combination of about 5, all costing you as a brand new bookkeeper less than $100 a month. Um, of different software programs that you need to efficiently run your bookkeeping practice. So one of the, I guess I will give a little shout out to Intuit. You can go to you can do a search for how do I set up an accountant's profile for QuickBooks Online, and you actually can create a QuickBooks Online account for yourself for free. So there's a lot of different kind of tricks that our students get to benefit from our knowledge and our experience while still keeping costs down as, as low
Right.
as possible. One of the other things that is, well, I should say two other topics that we talk about a lot during both the self-study course and the coaching is dealing with the imposter syndrome. So a lot of times people who have never ventured out on their own will start to have some success, and then they will just sabotage themselves. And so there's just things that we've learned because we've seen it over and over again. Not that I'm getting into psychology or anything like that, but if you start noticing that you're behaving in a certain way, then let's go through this exercise. So we deal with the imposter syndrome, but one of the coolest, I would say, my favorite topics is time management, because
Right.
let's say you have someone who stay-at-home mom. She has always done the balance of working full-time and still managing a household, kids, husband, dogs, whatever. And now all of a sudden she follows my example, quits her job, and then says, I'm going to launch a bookkeeping business.
Yeah.
That first day when you're sitting there and there is nothing on your calendar is enough to make you want to just like jump off the
You're like,
bridge,
like
right?
what was I thinking?
What
Right.
was I thinking? And what do I
Mhm.
do? Like, what do I do? Where do I start? So we really have it. It's all about the numbers, and we have it broken down into depending on where you're at with your number of clients and what your availability is, you know exactly what you need to be doing, and you really are establishing the habits that you need to have as a business owner. And I
Right.
think that that's the piece that a lot of education and training programs don't teach you. They don't teach you how to own a business. They don't teach you how to protect yourself as a business owner. They don't really talk about when does it make sense to hire, or creating a system and a process where if you do decide you want to hire, how do you figure out what you delegate to someone?
Mm.
And those were all things that I will say I got very lucky, because I hired some really amazing people, but it truly did take a village to be able to create what we figured out. And I feel as if, because we figured it out, that it is my responsibility as a human being to give back. If I can help one stay-at-home mom or dad, or
Right.
military spouse, not feel like they're struggling, or that their heart's being ripped out every day, that they have to leave their kids or say no for a theater production or whatever it is, then I've done something that my kids can be proud of. So
That's great. Changing lives one at a time, right?
right, right.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Good for you. Well, how do people find you? If they're interested in learning more about the
Sure.
course or just connecting with you in general.
Best thing to do is go to onehourbookkeeper.com, whole bunch of information on the site, and that would be the very best way for them to get in touch. And there's some freebies and stuff like that that we'll be able to give them as well.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was great meeting you, and loved hearing the story. And again, it's 1 hour, and is it spelled out
It is.
HOUR? Yeah. So
Yep.
1hourbookkeeper.com, and connect with Melissa there. Well, very good.
Thanks,
We
Gary.
absolutely thank you, and we'll talk soon. Thanks,
All
Melissa.
right.
All right. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
This episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast is brought to you by Insightful Accountants Be Insightful membership program. Get 9 expert-led training tracks, over 30 CPE hours a year, hands-on workshops, and year-round premium content to grow your skills and your practice. Learn more at blog.insightfulaccountant.com. Just click the premium member content button.